here on the toilet taking a literal dump on Trump 2020 in their attempt to steal the election, right? It's a coup attempt. And of all the elections we've had in the past, we've never had this nonsense. And I would agree, our elections for the most part is bullshit. But still, you gotta have fact on that bullshit. And one of the things that the Trump 2020 individuals and proponents are crying, these QAnon cult following Trump supporters, right? These guys who believe in basically blood sucking Democrats, which, by the way, is the same conspiracy passed in the early 1900s on Jews and the coronavirus, right? They were also passed as pedophiles sucking their blood. It's the same thing, just being regurgitated for a later time. They knew it worked then, it's working now with these bigot white supremacist individuals. So I want to talk about one thing. I'm an entrepreneur. I've dealt with IP and everything else. I own trademarks and other things. Um, Holding intellectual property, IP stands for intellectual property, has nothing to do with voting machines. Basically, here's something you probably didn't know. When um, Rolls Royce or Mercedes or BMW, I can't remember which one, I think it was actually BMW. It could have been Rolls Royce. Either way, anyway, the little icon on the front of on the front of the car, okay, is IP, intellectual property, and known as a trademark. And that trademark was held by someone else, and you can look it up. This is a true story. Can't remember which brand at this moment. I think it was Rolls Royce. Then again, I think it was BMW. Anyway, when they did investigate and realize that this was owned by someone else, so they sold the company. But when they sold the company, they didn't actually own that mark. And as a result, that mark was, held by someone else. That's IP. Now, does it stop that company from producing cars? No. What it stops them from doing is actually producing cars with that IP. That intellectual property has nothing to do with the voting machines other than the technology used in building it. It doesn't give that person control on those machines. And So the idea of intellectual property is just IP. It's a patent. It's a trademark. It's shit. That's it. That's all it is. It doesn't control votes. And here's another thing about the whole voting thing. Every vote has a paper corresponding vote to it. Even if you vote by mail, it prints out. I mean, you have that, or like I did, I voted by fax. It prints out that sheet, and they use that sheet to vote after verifying the signature on that sheet. So for people to say, well, they're flipping votes, it can't magically do that because you have a hard copy, people. You have a hard copy of the votes. So the idea of these machines generating votes or flipping votes is complete nonsense. Because once you understand how our election is structured and how it works, you realize that there's actually a physical ballot. Now, you don't know who cast that, but there was someone from the GOP and someone from the Democrat who looked at the ballot and said, yes, the signatures are there, boom, and continue. So there's a lot wrong. I mean, we could fix our voting and put it on the blockchain and have everyone have their own unique, ID, blockchain ID, private key, and a public key. The public key would be vote. Private key would be your key that only you knew. Um, And that would have a whole host of problems because a lot of people lose their private key and they won't be able to vote, not get another one issued. And obviously, probably a way to do that. Um, but still, this whole kind of thing is hilarious. Here's another thing for you to think about, too. You have a president spending his time golfing. Now, if you ever been wronged, if you ever been so upset you've been wrong, would you spend your time doing your hobby? Would you spend your time? He's in denial. He doesn't want to think about it. He doesn't. He's basically like a baby in denial of the loss, and he just wants to focus on, you know, having fun, playing games. People don't do that. When you've been wronged by something, you physically go out there and do that. So this show is brought to you by Toilet. Right? Get a nice jet of warmed water spraying on your sphincter. And get all that bullshit out of you, Trump 2020. It's un-American. This whole conspiracy shit, um, fighting one another is so un-American, man. We're United States, not divided states. Get over it. Okay? Biden is just another old fucking white man president. I'm not happy Biden's president, but you know what? I'm happy Trump isn't. Undaudu.